to it, a bit of a cover-up feel. I would love this for summer as like a cover-up or a t-shirt. I also feel like it could be really good for fall when you're transitioning into those cooler temperatures. I did it in a cotton, but I feel like acrylic, like I said, for fall could be really cute. There is a cuffed collar, sleeves, and hem. Yeah, it sits really nicely. I love it. So I'm excited to show you how to make it. I used a 5mm crochet hook on this design, and I use Lion Brand's 24/7 cotton yarn. I also used a darning needle. There is some stitching, just whip stitching these top parts together and the side. It's made in a front panel and then a back panel, and then you put it all together and add the trim. You'll also, of course, need scissors, and that's about it. This video tutorial is made to accompany the written pattern, which you can find for free on my website, lakesideloops.com. If you prefer, you can also download a printable version of the pattern from Etsy or Ravelry. The links for all of that are below. This video tutorial will not be step by step. It's just going to go over the trickier parts that are within the written pattern. So you will need the written pattern in order to complete this piece. This video tutorial, like I said, is just meant as an aid, a visual aid to help with those written instructions. So as I said, this video is just meant to go with the written pattern. In the written pattern, you can find the finished sizes, how it fits, the yarn that's required to complete the pattern. That information is all in there. You can make size extra small all the way up to 5X. The beginning chain number is on there, everything you need. I'm just gonna go over the basics of the pattern. So I'm just gonna crochet a little swatch here to give you an idea of how the body of the top is made, how this part, how the stitches work together. So you're going to start with your initial beginning chain. Yours will be much longer than mine. Again, I'm just doing a little sample size. You're going to chain anywhere from 84 to 144, or sorry, even higher than that, 151, depending on what size top you are making. So I've made a loop around my hook, and now I am going to grab my yarn and pull it through to create my beginning chain. So you're going to continue on and create as many chains as it says within the pattern. And once you've completed your beginning chain, again, yours will be much longer than this little one that I've created here to show you. Once you've completed the beginning chain, you're going to single crochet in the second chain from your hook. So not this first chain right here, not this one, the second one down. So this chain right there, we're going to work a single crochet. So I'm inserting my hook, I'm grabbing the yarn, I'm pulling it through, grabbing the yarn and working through both loops on my hook. And I'm going to repeat that process, working in every chain all the way down to where I started. Just working single crochet in each chain. So I've completed all of the single crochets. I've got one in each of my chains, and that's the end of row 1. This is also going to be the front of our work. Anything that when it's facing us when we're working the single crochets, that's the front side. Now we're going to switch to the back for row 2. So I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to turn. Now this is going to be the back side. We are going to half double crochet into the first stitch. So I'm going to yarn over into this first stitch. I'm going to work a half double crochet. Now I'm going to chain 1, skip 1, and half double crochet in the next stitch. So I'm chaining 1, I'm skipping this next stitch, and I'm going to half double crochet into the next stitch. I'm going to yarn over, insert my hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 loops on my hook to complete that half double crochet. Chain 1, yarn over, skip this stitch, and half double crochet into the next one. And you're just going to continue to do that all the way down your chain. Or sorry, all the way down your row. All right, so I've made it all the way to the end of my row. Now for row 3, you're going to turn, chain 1 or chain 1 and then turn. You are going to single crochet into the first stitch. So right into this half double crochet that we made in our previous row, we are going to work, ooh, let me get that to focus. So right into that half double crochet, I just worked a single crochet. Let me back that up. So chain 1, turn. You're going to work a single crochet into this first stitch, and then you're going to work a single crochet into the chain 1 space from the previous row. So right into the space, I'm going to put my hook, grab my yarn and pull it through, work that single crochet, and then into the next stitch, so into this half double crochet, work a single crochet. Again, into this hole, into this chain 1 space, I'm going to grab my yarn and make a single crochet, and then into the next stitch, another single crochet. So into the chain 1 space, into the stitch, all the way down your row. And again, this side that we're working these single crochets, this is going to be the front of our sweater. This will be the back. So you're just going to continue repeating row 2 and row 3 until you have something that looks like this. I think it looks kind of like rattan, which is what it was based on. So this is the front. You can see our single crochet stitches into the chain 1 space. This is the front panel, and then this is the back. If you can tell the difference there. The single crochets look a little bit different from behind. That's the front, that's the back. And you'll notice that when you do the half double crochet rows, you're going to have this chain 2 that's sticking out on one side of your piece that isn't on this side. This side just finishes with a plain stitch. This will all make sense when we piece it together. This won't be a big deal. I prefer to do it this way because if we don't, then our row will start with the double crochet acting as a stitch, and then when we come back around to work our single crochets, it can be hard to work into the top of a chain 2, and I find it often gets missed, and then all of a sudden your piece starts to angle inward. I like having that chain 2 there and then working your stitch because it's really easy to see where you need to work that single crochet into. There's a very clear stitch and space for it to go. And then, like I said, these chains of 2 that are kind of hanging out on the side here, it'll all make sense when we piece it together. So don't worry about that. If you are really good at doing a chain 2 and it acting as a stitch, you can do that if you want to omit this half double crochet and just use the chain 2 as your first stitch for those rows. But like I said, I did it the pattern this way because I feel like it's easier to work into that half double crochet. Hopefully that makes sense. So for the shoulders, so you're gonna crochet, I've clearly skipped way ahead here. So you're gonna continue to repeat row 2 and 3 until you get to the instructions where it describes the shoulders. And the shoulders are just these little pieces here. So there's instructions for the left shoulder, and then there's separate instructions for the right shoulder. So for the left shoulder, you're gonna continue on using the yarn that you've been using. It picks up right where you're leaving off with this completed row. When you go to work your half double crochet row, this is where it begins to change. So you'll be working in this direction. When you get to where it says, it'll tell you to complete so many half double crochets. Let me make sure I'm zoomed in on the right spot here. Complete so many double crochets, and then when you get to this last bit here, it'll say skip the next stitch and double crochet in the following stitch. So that will give you the look of a hole, but actually you just have this long stitch here which is going to taper it in. Then you're going to turn and you're going to work your single crochets. So you're going to turn, chain one, skip the first stitch. So you're going to skip this double crochet stitch and you're going to single crochet into the following stitch. All right, so for the right shoulder, you are going to attach yarn where it says. It will tell you specifically which stitch in this last row that you finish off to attach yarn to. The reason we're starting over here is because we want the stitches to be worked in the same direction that we have been working in, and it needs to be a half double crochet row first. So we're going to attach our yarn here so that we can work in this direction. So attaching the yarn, then you're going to chain two and turn. So you're going to be flipping your work. Sorry, that got a little hectic to do on camera, but I've flipped it around. So this is the back of your work. This is the right shoulder, even though it's on this side on the camera. You're going to attach your yarn, or you already attached your yarn on the side. You've flipped it around, you're going to chain two, and you're half double crocheting. The only thing is when you chain two, you're going to skip the first stitch so that you have a little hole here. That chain two, for the first time ever, is going to act as a stitch. So you're going to half double crochet all the way to the end. Then you're going to chain one, turn, and you're going to complete a certain number of single crochets. It will describe in the pattern when to stop. Once you've completed those single crochets, you're good to go. You are going to turn, chain two, and then you're going to skip a stitch, again creating that look of a hole and slanting your shoulder to create a nice little curved neckline. And you're going to complete half double crochets until the end of the row, chain one, turn again, and you're going to finish off by single crocheting a certain number of single crochets to finish off that neckline, that shoulder. Once you've completed that, both shoulders are done, you're okay to go ahead and repeat the process. So the front panel and the back panel are identical, they are the same. So you can go ahead and make a second panel, just follow the instructions in the pattern. All right, to join these two panels together, I already have one shoulder seamed together. This is my neck hole, and we're going to join the other shoulder. I've already started to join the other shoulder. You want to have both of your good sides facing out. So this is the side where, again, I was working my single crochets. You can see here, this is what it looks like. My single crochets should look like this. This is your good side. So I want both of those sides facing outward. When you do this, one of your panels is going to have that chain two on this side, and the other one will not. That's kind of you shouldn't have both of the chain two sides on the same side. One of them should be over here, the other one over there. Okay, so that's how you know that you've got them both facing where you want them to go. It's not the end of the world if you have this part facing out. I just find this looks the best, and I just want both sides to be consistent and look the same. So we are just going to take a piece of yarn, thread it through our darning needle. This is easy peasy. You could even use your crochet hook to do this, except that your seam will be really thick. I'm working from the outside of my work. Sometimes I turn pieces inside out to seam them together. With this one, I liked how it looked seaming it from the outside. You can do it however you like. There's no right or wrong here. Just if you're wondering how I did it, this is how I did it. So I threaded my yarn through my darning needle, and I just went into each, directly through each stitch. You can kind of see here as well. So into both loops of each stitch, all the way across. And you could start here and work your way over. You could start here at the neck and work your way back. As long as when you get to this part, this lines up, and same with here, that should line up. So it might even be easier to start from the outside and work your way in, but it really doesn't matter. This is very forgiving. Even if you're off by a stitch here, It's not going to make or break things. Your trim will sort of hide that and cover it up, and it's not going to change the fit of the neckline a whole lot. So don't stress. The only thing, yeah, even here, you could sort of fudge it a little bit, and it'll still look beautiful and work out in the end. So again, I love crochet. It's so forgiving and unique, and you can make it your own. So this is how I chose to seam it, but you do not need to do it this way if you have another option that you prefer. All right, when you are joining your sides together, I started from the bottom, worked my way up to the armhole. You're going to leave out a certain number of rows for, of course, your armhole. You don't want to sew it up all the way to the top. You'll have no place to put your arms. So you are going to whip stitch along the two pieces, so along the side all the way up, like I said, until you get to where you're going. On one piece, you have it ending with a half double crochet. On the other piece, you will have it ending with that chain 2. I joined the chain 2 to the half double crochet, and I left the half double crochets on the other piece, the piece that has the chain 2s, alone. I just didn't touch them. I just joined the chain 2 to my half double crochets. On the other side, it'll be the same thing. You'll have one piece that has the double crochets, or sorry, the chain 2, and one piece that just has the half double crochets, but it'll be reverse. So when you flip it around, this will be on the bottom and this will be on the top, but same idea. I joined the chain 2s to the half double crochets. Another thing to keep in mind is that this is really forgiving in terms of where you place your thread, except for you want to make sure that each row is lining up. I don't want to be doing stuff like this where I've got a row in between two rows. I want to make sure everything is lining up row by row as I go. Otherwise, your sweater is going to look a little wonky. So just make sure as you go, you're checking in and making sure, so you see back here, that each row is lining up on both panels together. So I just take my yarn and I find a little spot anywhere in that half double crochet, and I can either go directly through the chain, or I like to go right into the chain and pull together. And then same thing, I'll come here to the single crochet section and I'll find a spot to put my needle through. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. This part's really forgiving as long as your rows are lining up. So you might want to check in every once in a while just to make sure that those rows are lining up. And if not, backtrack and make sure that they do. And then you're going to continue just joining these together in this fashion. The other thing to note is that my pieces are facing outward. Like this is the front, this is the inside. So I'm doing this from the good side. I tried doing it the other way, sort of inside out and seaming the pieces together and then flipping it out the right way. And I didn't like how it laid. It sort of clumped it inward and I wanted it to be as flat as possible. So this seemed to be the best method to me. You can do it however you want. That's what I love about crochet, is we can each make it our own thing and do what we prefer. But if you're wondering what I did, this is what I did. This is the outside facing outward. Again, this is the right side, the outside facing outward, and I'm just joining it up the side here. All right, so for the bottom trim, I've skipped quite a ways ahead here in an effort to show you it the best way that I can. To start things off, you're going to pick a side of your sweater. It doesn't matter which side, because right now both sides are the same. So it doesn't matter which side you go with. The only thing you need to be consistent with here is whatever side you decide to start on. You need to make sure when it comes to your neck trim that you start on that same side. So in this case, I started back here. I did my chain of 5, and I've been slip stitching back and forth, joining into my stitches down here as I've gone. And you get this really beautiful ribbed look. You can do this working from the outside. You can do it working from the inside. It doesn't matter because both sides of the ribbing look the same. I prefer to do it working from the outside, but you can do whatever you find easiest. So once you do your initial chain, the way that this ribbing works is you're working into the back loop only. So let me get my hook back in here. So sorry, let me back this up. So with the initial chain, you chained 5. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. So in this case, I'm at a turning point, which we'll get to with you in a minute. I'm just going to add an extra chain here. You're working into the back loop only. So let me zoom in here. You can see these stitches. Normally you would work into here. See if I can get into both loops. In this case, you're just going to work into the back loop only. Now it's important when you do this ribbing that you keep your stitches very loose. If you're a tight crocheter, you have to fight everything in you and make these loose slip stitches, because otherwise it's going to be a real pain to work back into them when you come back up this little row that we're making. So you're slip stitching into the back loop only, and when you get down to the bottom and you're back into your work, you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch in your piece, which in the case of this bottom trim is just the bottom half of these chains that we made initially. So you're going to slip stitch into that. You're going to turn so that you can work back up this row that we've created. And again, we're going into the back loop only of these 4 slip stitches. So sometimes I find it, if I'm not sure kind of where to start, I find it easier to count down. So you can see clearly there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is the stitch I'm going to be working into first. Into the back loop only. Ooh, I made that guy too wide. Let's bring him back in. Let me zoom in a little more here. All right, so I have to kind of pull this out of my way, or I can take it around my hook and bring it to the other side to get it really out of the way. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going right into here, grabbing my yarn and completing that nice loose slip stitch. And I'm going to do the same, working back up this little row of ribbing that we're making. So again, and this last one can be tricky. I sometimes have to use my fingernail to slide it onto my hook. So I've completed those 4 slip stitches. I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to turn again. So now I'm working back down this little row, and again, just into the back loop only, nice and loose. The bigger the better for these little slip stitches that you're making, so they'll be easy to work back into when you come back up. Now, when I get to the bottom of this row, it's a little bit different. I wanted to kind of taper in the bottom of the sweater, so I didn't want to work a rib for every stitch. Sorry, I'm having trouble getting this last. There we go. Whew. This is why I need to very loosely slip stitch. Do as I say, not as I do. I tell my kids all the time. So for this next one, I'm not going to go right into this stitch. I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch. That way I don't have a ribbing for every single stitch. It's you work into a stitch, then the next time you come back down, you skip a stitch and slip stitch into the next one. And that way our end, I'll show you here, is a little bit tapered in. It's not, our ribbing isn't kind of kicking out or looking all roughly at the bottom. It's kind of tapered in, it's tight. I think it looks best that way. So again, when you're going around, you're going to slip stitch into a stitch, and then the next time you come back down, you're going to skip a stitch and slip stitch into the next stitch as you go around. So we're at the bottom again. We are going to, I'm going to bring that yarn back around my hook. We don't even chain, you don't need to chain anything, but we're going to slip stitch into the back loop only of these 4 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And work our way back up. It can be a little tedious, especially like I said, if your slip stitches are too tight, they're really difficult to work into. But the end result is so worth it. So try to have patience, slip stitch as loosely as you can. And then when you get back to where you started, you can slip stitch sort of back up here, or you can just use your darning needle to weave the 2 rows together to join your beautiful trim. All right, so this this sleeve trim is very similar to our bottom trim. The only difference being instead of working into the stitches, you're working into the rows. So I started at the bottom of the arm. So right where my side seam is, this is where I started. I went all the way around and this is where I finished. So again, same concept, except you're working into each row. So you're going to work into the rows of half double crochet, into the row single crochet, half double crochet, single crochet, and so on and so on and so on. One of these sides will not have that chain 2. The other side will. When you get to the side that has that chain 2, you can see here I worked into the chain 2 instead of around the half double crochet stitch. So you're going to work into each row all the way around. You're also going to come to a point where your shoulder join is. And again, I worked into my row, I worked into the join, into a row, into the join, and so on and so on. This is really forgiving. You really can't go wrong if you make an extra row or you have 1 fewer. I would opt for 1 fewer. I would rather have this trim be a little tapered in than go out. But again, it's really forgiving. Just kind of placing it where it makes sense is definitely the way to go. So you kind of know what your spacing is by the time you get to this shoulder seam. You can see I did 1 here that went into the half double crochet row, and then I did 1 that sort of went into the join, and then 1 here in the single crochet row. So there's kind of 2 here where this join situation is, and then I went back to working into my half double crochets and single crochet rows all the way down until I got to where I started, and then just repeat for the other sleeve. This is what you should have. All right, now the neck trim is very similar to the other trim that we've done. It's kind of a combination of the 2 because you're going to be working into some stitches, and then you're going to be working like you did with the bottom trim, and then you're also going to be working sort of into the side of the rows like you did with the sleeve trim. So you're going to start out by attaching your yarn in the middle back of your neck hole. You know it's the middle back because it should align with your starting point down here in your bottom trim. So whatever side, the front and back panels are the same until we add the trim. So whatever side you started the trim on, whether it was this side or the other side, doesn't matter, as long as where you started down here, you're starting on the same side up here. You don't want to have this seam on this side and then flip it over and have your neck seam up here, because then when you wear it, you're either going to have the neck seam in the front or you're going to have this bottom seam in the front. So you want them to be on the same side. So I started my bottom trim on this side, so I came up here and started my neck trim on this side. So same as we did on the bottom, you're going to attach your yarn. You are going to chain and create this ribbed stitching until you get to the side. When you get to sort of the side of your neck hole, you're going to switch gears a little bit, and instead of working into the stitches, you're going to be working into the rows the same way that you did with your sleeve. So it's the same thing, and then you're going to switch back when you get to the stitches on the other side, and you're going to work into the stitches all the way around the same way you did with the bottom trim. And then when you get to this side, again, you're going to switch back, work into the rows, and then go back into the stitches to finish off and join it together. So I won't go through it with you because we've already done it, and I don't want to take up any more of your time. I really hope that you enjoyed this pattern. I cannot wait to see you guys in this sweater, in this top. I can't wait to see if you use acrylic or cotton, what colors, what you wear it with. Thank you so much for following along, and take care.